In this video, we're going to build a simple to-do list CLI application. So this is an application that you can be able to extend later on after we cover some of the other concepts we'll be covering in upcoming lessons. So we're going to learn how to write and call functions, at least remind ourselves of that. We're going to use lists to store tasks. We've sort of introduced lists before, but we're going to be covering them in depth in the next about 2 lessons. We'll look at looping and how to write conditional logic. But most importantly, we're going to look at how to write modular, clean, and readable and reusable code, which is what we've covered in the previous session. So we're going to see how we can just be able to break up this program into, some smaller parts that are a bit more manageable. So these are the simple things that our project is going to be able to do. The goal is to build a command line to-do list manager that allows users to add tasks, view tasks, manage tasks as complete, or rather mark tasks as complete, delete those tasks, and also exit from the application once they've already done what they wanted to do. So again, one thing like I'll mention here is that what you're going to be writing is not going to be the most efficient code, because the concepts that are going to make this project a bit more efficient, we're going to cover them in upcoming sessions. So for now, we're going to write this code. It's going to be functional. Then later on, we can cover the rest. So this is the simple modular design and structure that we're going to be following. You need to create a folder called to do. Then inside of this folder, we're going to have these 3 files: main.py, task.py, and menu.py. So like you've already seen, when you're writing the main function, we're going to use this main.py to run the program. We use the task.py to write the logic that is going to manage all the tasks, and we're going to create the menu.py file. This we are going to write the function that is going to show us the menu and get user input. So you can already see how modular this design is. Again, you can easily write everything in a single file, but it's going to be too many lines of code. It's not going to be manageable. It's going to be really hard for you to debug in case you encounter an error. So this is again why we're following this simple structure that you can see here. So we'll just move to our code editor. I've already created a folder called to do. Inside of this folder, I have these files: main.py, we have menu.py, and we also have task.py. But for now, I'd like us to start with, let's actually start with the tasks.py. Yeah, I think the task.py should be good to start with, or even the menu. Yeah, let's start by creating the menu first. So in the menu.py, we're going to create a function, and we'll call this function show underscore menu. And in this show underscore menu function, again, we're going to just write some simple print statements to format everything the way we want it to. So the first thing we're going to print is a statement that says something like, it's a to-do list. And here we can give the user some options that they're going to be using. So we'll have maybe the first should be for them to view the tasks. Then we're going to have the second one. The second is going to be to add tasks. Should be a full stop here. Okay, we're going to have the third to be complete or complete task. Ooh. Complete task, that should be fine. Then we're going to have a fourth option for the user to delete the task. Should be a string. So delete task. And finally, we're going to have an option for the user to exit. So once we get this, the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to write another function, and the aim of this function is going to be for us to get the user choice. So get underscore user underscore choice is what you should call this. And the aim for this is just to make sure that the choice that our user gives is already captured. So we're going to just return a statement here. So the input, again, we are prompting a user to pick something. So we'll tell the user here to choose an option. choose an option from 1 to 5, and you can have another set of parentheses in here, interlate 1 to 5, like that. So again, for now, we can call these functions in here just to see what they do. But ideally, for example, you can just call show underscore menu, and this is just to show us what the code does. Python 3 menu.py. Note that, okay, so this is what you're getting. This is the list that you're getting. But we're going to be calling this function. We're going to be exporting. Again, we've talked about writing modular, clean, and reusable code. So we're going to be importing this into some of the other the other files that we're going to be writing, so that we can use these two functions. But now that we have this, we can be able to show the menu. The other thing that we need to do is we need to write the functionality for managing the tasks. So the task related functions, we'll do all that inside our tasks.py file. So some of the task related functions is what you've just seen here previously. So adding tasks, viewing tasks, marking as read, all these are the task related functions. So to do that, we're going to have define all our functions here. So we'll have a function, we call this function add underscore task. This is going to be for managing the task. So again, it has to take in a task, of course. Then those tasks can be added. So the function, there's just some simple logic to go into this. You first, of course, need to get the task. So here we'll get input. We use an input function to get this from our user. So we'll tell our user to maybe enter a new task. So if you tell a user to enter a new task, then we can add everything else. So we can basically go ahead and add this task somewhere. So there's one thing that we're going to do here. We're going to be writing. We're going to be declaring a list. We're going to use a list to store all of these tasks. So once you've gotten the task from our user here, we can be able to store it somewhere in a list. That list we're going to store it, we're going to define it in the main.py file, right? So this is what I'm going to do for now. I'm going to just define all the functions, just to make sure that we are all aligned in what this does. Then I'll go ahead and just write the simple functionality in the main.py file. So we'll have view tasks. Again, this text in the tasks, and then we're going to again print something there. For now, I'll just use pass. So what you're going to notice is even if you do a research online and you're going to encounter something like this, we usually use this pass keyword as a placeholder, sort of, just so that whenever we are running our code, we basically tell our program that if you see this pass, I'd like you to ignore what that function is doing and just proceed. So this pass is just for ignoring, but we're going to remove it when you start writing the functionality for that. Then we'll have another one here. We're going to call it complete task. Again, it checks the tasks in as parameter. Again, we're going to just have a simple pass there to help us do that. Then the last functionality we need is for delete. So should be delete underscore task, and it also takes in tasks, like that, and we'll just pass it again for now. So now that we have all these are the functions that we need to use these functions, right? So this is where the main.py comes in. Remember, we haven't written the functionalities, the purposes of all these functions, but they're still there. So what we do is we come to our main.py here, and this is where now we define everything else. Or rather, remember, like you mentioned, this is where we run our program. Again, just to remind you of that, this is where we run the program in main.py. So here we're going to import tasks. So from tasks, we're going to import everything. We're going to import all the other functions that are there. So to import everything, we use the asterisk sign. So from tasks, import that basically means you're importing everything that is in the tasks.py file. Then also we need to do the same for should be from here. So again, from menu, we're going to also import everything else that is in menu, so that we can be able to use this. Then we can define our main function. this is where we write everything. So the main function, just like the previous main functions that we've written from the previous lectures, that is the same thing that this is going to do. But main thing that we're going to do here is tasks. Remember, we've been referring to tasks here. I've mentioned even tasks here that we're passing in as a parameter here. So we're going to pass in all these tasks in this case, but we're going to store them in a list, right? So again, remember we use lists to store items, and we separate each item by a comma. Again, we're going to cover all the details about lists in an upcoming session. So here now we have tasks that we're storing in a list. Then we can now write the simple logic. So while true here, so this is the logic for this. While true, we're going to do everything else. So that is while everything is working, the first thing we're going to do is, remember we have we have this menu here, and we're going to call show menu function, not show menu, yeah, show menu function. And if you come here, we have the menu.py. We have this show menu function that you can see here, show menu and get user choice. So we need to, when you call this show menu function, it's going to execute and give us this entire list. So we're going to come here and call it show underscore menu. Again, remember we're able to use this because we're importing everything from this side here. So that is really important. Okay, so now that we can be able to show menu, the other thing that we need to do is to get the user choice. So get user choice, we created that function called get underscore user underscore choice. This function as well, this is going to, again, this is what gets executed and gives us rather prompts the user to choose an option from the menu. Once we have these two, we can go ahead and now start defining the simple logic on how to add a task. Again, this is going to be some simple if statement. For example, if the user choice is 1, so if the user chooses 1, remember that's a double equal sign, then it means the user wants to view the tasks, right? So in this case, we call the view underscore tasks function. Simple as that. Or it also takes in a parameter, argument. So argument is going to take in all these tasks that we have here. Also, if the user choice is 2, if the user chooses 2, then the other thing we're going to do is, that means the user wants to add a task. So we just use add task. We call the add task function, and again, we pass in tasks as the argument. Okay, like that. Should be elif, not if, like that. Should be elif. We also add another option here. So else if the user chooses, if the choice is 3, if the user choice is 3, that means that the user wants to complete the tasks. So in this case, we call the complete task function. So complete underscore task, and we also pass in tasks as argument at this point. Then the other choice that is remaining is choice 5. So in this case, again, we also add a logic for that. Should be choice here. So if the user choice is 5, should be a string. If the user should be an O here. Okay, so if the user choice is 5, then that means that the user wants to exit the program. So in this case, we're going to print a statement. Like, again, this is not necessary, but you can just print a simple statement to tell a user maybe like something like goodbye. Then the main thing here is to make sure that we break out of the program. So in this case, remember, when the choice is 5, there's no function that we need to write for the user to exit. The only thing that we need to do here is you just need to exit out of the loop. Remember, we're using a while loop here, so we need to exit out of everything. That's why we're using the break statement. Again, feel free to refer back to the break and continue, the video that we did on break and continue keywords and how they help us exit out of loops. So if all of this, if none of the other choices are made, that means the user has made a choice that does not exist. Then you can print a statement to tell this user that they've made an invalid choice. So just say invalid choice. Then you can tell them maybe try again. Simple like that. So in this case, we've been able to write a simple, like a main function that is going to execute everything. For everything to work here, of course, we need to call the main function that we just defined. So once we call main like that, this is the main that we are calling, then everything should work. But again, there's still a lot that we need to. There's still a lot that we need to sort of make sure that we sort out here. But I'm going to do this. Let me save this file. Then we come back, come to the main. So I'm going to try and call the main, run this program to see what we get before we go ahead and execute all the other logic that we want. So we'll just say Python 3 main.py. So you see, it already executes, it already calls the show function. Then it's asking us to enter options. For example, if I try to enter one to view tasks, now you see, again, I'm not getting anything. It's still keeping me within the loop. Still keeping within the loop. The reason it's doing that is because we're using a while loop, of course, and that the logic we haven't executed or basically implemented the logic for all these other functions. But as you can see, everything is working. But the one option that we have that is working fully is the choice 5, which is for exiting out of the application. Now if I do 5 and I hit enter, you see it tells me goodbye and it exits from the application. Right. So as you can see, everything is working up to this point. Now all we need to do is we need to go and implement the logic for all these other things. Let's start by implementing the logic for adding a task. So how do you add a task? You of course need to get the task from a user. That's why you're using the input function to get that choice from a user. Then we have the tasks list. So once we get the task, we need to store this task. So to store the task, we store the task in the list. And how we do that, we use the dot append. So we usually use the dot append method to store, or rather to save something to a list. So we just, when you say tasks.append, then you pass in the task that we just gotten from our user in line 2. What this means is that this task is going to be added to this list. Where is it? Here. It's going to be added to this list. And we're about to see how that works in a moment. So the other thing that you can do is just print a statement to a user, just to tell them that they've been able to add a task. So we'll have a simple F string should work here. Then tell them they've added. We tell them the task that we just added. Then you just say task. Again, this part you don't really have to write it, but it's just important for readability, documentation, just helping a user understand what they've just done. Now let's try and confirm what I've just mentioned there. So we're going to run our program again. The file is called, I remember we're using the main.py to run our program. Don't forget that. So once you hit enter, then what you want to do is you want to add a task. So you can go to 2, then we hit enter. You see it already prompts us to enter a new task. So if the new task was, let's say, cooking lunch, then we hit enter. Then that is basically it. You see it tells us here again, we've added cooking lunch. Okay. Now that we've added the task, the other thing that we need to be able to do is we need to be able to view the task. But right now, if we try to view the task, one is for viewing the task, we don't get anything. The reason for this is because, again, I'm going to just exit from that for now. The reason for that is because we have not implemented the logic for viewing the tasks. So again, I'll just now get rid of this pass, and you can go ahead and write how you can view the task. So the logic for viewing the task is quite simple. The first thing you need to do is we need to check for the length of the list, right? Again, I'd like you to just ease into what I'm talking about as far as lists are concerned. Everything that I'm mentioning here, these are things that we're still going to look at and cover when you look at lists separately. But you can be able to understand them at this point. That would be perfect. So we're going to have we're going to basically check to see if there's a task in the list. So remember, this is a list, and for when a task is added, right now there's no task. That means the list is empty, right? So the first thing that we need to do is we need to check the length of the list. If the length of the list is 0, that means the list is empty and there's no task. But if the length is greater than 0, that is 1, 2, 3 going forward, that means that there's a task in the list that we have here. So how do we do that? We have a method known as the length. So we use the length method to check for the length of the task. So we just call len, then you pass in the list. In this case, our list is called tasks. So what we're checking is if the length of that list is 0, if this is the case, it means that there are no tasks. So that means we can print a statement here and tell the user that there are no tasks yet. So this is an important part to understand. Now, once you do this, once we have the logic, we confirm that there is no task. Of course, we tell our user that there is no task, right? The other thing that we can do here is now, in case there is a task, that is now the else part. In case there is a task, then we can go ahead and allow the user to view the tasks. So again, we just going to have a simple print statement here just to help our user understand what is happening. So we'll call it your tasks maybe as a statement to just show the user what is happening. Then in this case, we talked about for loops. And when we're talking about for loops, we saw how you can iterate over a list, right? So I'd like you to just remember what we covered in that. So what you can do in this case, we just use a for loop. We just say for I in range. Remember, you can call I anything else. You can just say for task, any of that, honestly. For I in range. Now, this is where it becomes interesting, and I'd like you to take note of this and make sure that you understand it fully. For I in range, when you usually pass in the range, we have like a static number, like, or rather hard coder number. This is what we've been doing when you're working with for loops. But in this case, we're trying to check for the length of a list. And for us to view the tasks, we need to view the task according to the size of the list. But we don't know the size of the list. We don't know how long the list is. Assuming the list has 1,000 items, we don't know that. So because we don't know that, that is where now we rely on the len method that we just talked about, because len tells us the size of the list. So we don't have to hard code this value. We just take len, then we pass in the tasks. So what this is going to do is it's going to be for I in range. This value here is still going to be a number, but now it is going to be the exact number of tasks that we have. So we don't have to worry about, knowing the exact number beforehand so that we can add code it. So this len handles all that for us. I hope that is that is pretty clear. If it's not, let me know in the comments below. I'll make sure that I re-explain it in a way that you can fully understand. So we now check for I in range, the size of the tasks that we have. Then we can just print those tasks. So we can just say, I use an F string again. Again, at this point, I believe you'll understand what an F string does. So what we'll do here is we're going to have I, which is each of the tasks, then plus 1. And in this case, we'll just say dot like that, and we'll just take tasks. I'm going to explain this, what it means. Then tasks, and we use square brackets, and we say I. This is what this means. In this case, when you say I plus 1, we just basically, we're trying to, it's a clever way of numbering the tasks. So if you have 2 tasks, it's going to be I plus 1. Remember, for I in range, it's going to start from 0. So it's going to be from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way. So this is just for numbering the task, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is what this first part does. Then the second part, where we have tasks and we have square brackets I, this is how you read elements in a list. You take the name of that list, you use the square brackets, and then you specify the index of the element. In this case, again, remember, we don't know the exact size of the list. So for us to know the index of the list, we just pass in I. Remember, indexing in Python starts from 0. So when you say for I in range, we know that this I is going to start from 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way, which means that it already follows the indexing sort of phenomenon that we want it to follow. So when you say tasks I, it means that it's going to be the index from index 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way up until the last index in a list. So I believe this is pretty clear to this point. We're going to save this, and I want us to run so we can understand what is happening here. Remember, we already added a task earlier on, but let's just do this again. For now, let's try to view the tasks first. So when I say one view task, hit enter, you see it tells us that there are no tasks yet, right? So let's go ahead and try to add a task. So to add tasks, enter a new task. Let's say the task was clean the house. clean the house. I said that was the task. We hit enter. Then you see it says we've already added, again, like you mentioned in the first logic. The next thing that we can do here is we'll go ahead and try to view the tasks. So I'll hit one to view. You see it tells your tasks, then there's one that is your task. This is what I mentioned, I plus one, this is going to be 1 here. Remember, indexing starts from 0, so the first task is going to be 0 plus 1, which is 1. Let's try to add a new task again. Add a task. Let's say the new task is to sleep, right? Then we'll go ahead and try to view the tasks. Add one. You see it tells sleep is task 2. And if you continue adding them, it goes on and on and on and on. Now, the one thing that you have to note at this point is, as much as we're storing the tasks in the list, we do not sort of store them completely, in that if I exit this program right now and I try to come back again to view the tasks, you see it tells me that there are no tasks yet. The reason for this is because we're using a list to store our tasks, and the list sort of does not store the task permanently. We're going to, in the future concepts that we're going to be covering over the next probably 5-6 lessons, we're going to introduce concepts like lists, and not lists rather, but files and dictionaries. And we're going to see how those can be able to help us store the tasks in a way that we can read those tasks at any point, even if you exit the program. But for now, I'd like us to stick to this and make sure that we fully understand what this is, because we're going to be extending this program later on. So now we have view tasks works. The next logic that we need to implement is how to complete a task. So you're going to be assigned a task, of course, right? So once you get assigned a task, you need to complete that task. But first, for you to complete a task, you need to know which tasks are there. So in this case, we call the view tasks function. Then we pass in tasks like that. This again, we're calling just to view the tasks. Then we need to check for the length of the tasks again, to make sure that there is a task. If there are no tasks, then we can just exit out of the program really. So if there's no task, or rather if there's no task, we're going to just use an empty return statement like this. So that means, again, we're not doing anything at this point. Then the other thing that we need to do is, now we need to implement the logic for completing the task. In this case, I'm going to declare a variable called num, and what we're going to do is we're going to ask a user to enter the number of the task they want to mark as done. So we'll have input function, and we tell the user here to enter task number to mark as done. Simple as that. So when they enter the task number, they should be good. So we just check, for example, if the user enters the number of the task is 1, less than, or in this case, the number of the task, if it is the number of the task is greater than 1, and also less than or equal to the length of the task. Again, remember, everything that we're doing here is dependent on the size of the tasks that we have. If this is the case, then we can mark the task as done. So how we do that, again, remember, the way we read elements in a list, you check the name of the list, you use the square brackets, then you specify the index. In this case, the index is going to be num minus 1. So what this means basically is, it means that the task that you're the specific number of the task that you have, you want to add a statement that says that this task is complete, right? So we're sort of doing string concatenation basically. So you're going to just add, then you can add a statement that marks the task as done. So you can have a statement like done. You can add an emoji if you want to, but yeah, so you can add something like that. So I can say something like, okay, yeah, I think they should be able to work. I'll just say, you can even have a bold statement that says complete, like that. We're going to see how this works. Then you can just print a statement later on to tell the user that the task has been marked as done. So task marked as done. So we can also have an else block here. And the aim of this else block is just in case a user tries to enter an invalid task number, we just tell the user that they've entered an invalid task number. like that. Awesome. So let's try and see what this looks like. Okay, we're going to again create some new task. I'll just expand the size of this terminal. Then we run, we're going to add a task. Let's say we add a task like clean. Then, of course, you can view the task, the functionality is there, but I'd like us to complete the task. So we'll go to 3. Then it says enter the task number to mark as done. So you see the task number is already here and it is 1. So I'll just say 1. I hit enter. Then you see it says marked as done in the task basically. Again, you can go ahead and add some functionality to view the task and how it has been marked as done, honestly. But let's try to view the task again. 1. You see when you view the task, it says clean, then complete. So you can add some sort of like space in between here. So you can just say, for example, I can just have a simple arrow like that in some space from before here, like that. So I'm going to exit this program and run it again. So we do add task, then the task is it. We can go ahead and view the task. You can see the task there. Then we can go ahead and mark it as complete. Complete task. We specify the task that we want to complete. In this case, it's the task 1. If we go to view the task again with 1, you see it says it, then complete. So that's ideally the logic that we just implemented. As you can see, again, it's a lot of fun once you sort of get the concepts right. The last functionality for us to implement is how to delete a task. So to delete a task, again, just get rid of this pass. It's simple. You just need to view the task first to understand that, so that you can be able to choose which task you want to delete. And then you need to check if I think at this point is pretty obvious. And I'll just copy this part here. I'll actually just copy these two. Okay, what is going on? Okay. I think good now. Ooh, okay. It's not able to. I'm not sure why it can't, do a simple copy, but I was trying to copy directly using my mouse and even thought my machine started acting up. But okay, so we're good. Now, this is what this does. Again, when you're trying to delete a task, you need to make sure that you have a task. Then if there's no task, you exit or you basically go back to the menu. And then here, we just want someone to enter the task number that they're for the task they want to delete. So in this case, not to mark as done, but to delete. So that is ideally what you're doing here. Once they've already done that, then you can write the simple logic to help us do this. Again, just because at this point I don't want to write all this code manually, I'm going to copy this logic because it's almost quite similar to what you're about to implement. Then we can edit it out. Then we'll do this. So in this case, what you're doing here is we're checking for the number of the task that the user has entered. This is just to make sure and confirm that the user is entering a task number for a task that exists. So if they enter a number that is beyond the numbers that exist in the tasks, then we tell them it's an invalid task number. So this is just the first line here, line 31, is confirming that. Then the next thing we need to do here is we just need to remove the tasks. So to remove the task here, we don't need this entire statement that I've written here. So all you need to do, I'll actually just remove everything here. Okay, so I'm going to remove this. So what you need to do at this point is I'm going to declare a variable called removed. And what you need to do is you need to take the tasks, which is a list. Then lists have a method known as pop. The purpose of this pop method is to remove elements from a list. Like pop says, to pop them out of the list. So in this case, we'll specify the task that we want to remove. In this case, it could be num -1. So this is going to pop the task out. And once it has done that, we can just print a statement here that says deleted. So you can just have a simple statement. Again, this statement that you write here, make sure that you can just you're free to customize the statement as you'd like, as much as you'd like to. So in this case, we just say deleted and can actually have we're going to I can have an f string here just to tell the user which tasks they've deleted. Again, not necessary to have all this, but again, makes it fun and a bit more clean to look at. Now let's try to. I've already saved that. Let's try to run this code again one last time. One last time. So we'll just say Python 3 main.py. Then we would like to add a task. So we'll add a task. Let's say the task is clean. I'm going to add another task. To add task, I'll say the task is cook. Then I'll add another task. To again to add a task. Then I'll just say maybe errands. Then we can try to view the tasks. Let's go to one to view. You can see we're able to view the task here. Your task 1, 2, 3. That's correct. Then we can mark the tasks as complete at this point again. So I'll go to 3. Then which task do I want to mark as complete? Let's say errands. So 3. Then let me also mark. Okay, let's just view the tasks again to see if it has been marked. You see errands has been marked as complete. That is great. Now let's try to delete the task because this is the latest functionality that we've implemented. So you go to delete task. It tells us here we're getting choose an option 1 to 5. It's telling invalid choice. Try again. It's supposed to be 4. Okay, it keeps on saying invalid choice. Let's see. Probably missed something in our logic. So this is delete task. And let's go to main.py complete task here. And okay, so here I did not implement the logic for deleting the task. That's why it's not getting anything. So I'll just add an elif. Okay, it should be at this point. Sure. So elif, and where are we getting all this? Choice. So if the choice is 4, and then here we can call the delete task. So delete underscore task, and we pass in tasks. So this should be able to work. Let's again confirm. I call this delete task, text in tasks as a parameter there. So this should be able to work at this point. Let's confirm in our menu. We have delete task, complete task. Everything is great. So in this case, right now, if I try to run this, as you can see, it's still going to give me invalid choice. That's because we need to exit and rerun this program just so that it can pick up on this new logic. So you run it. So you try to add tasks again. I'll just say clean. And then we can add another task and say cook. And you can view the task. As you can see, we can complete the tasks. I'm going to expand this. We can complete the task, mark maybe the first task as complete. We can try to view them again. You can see clean is marked as complete. Then let's try to delete a task. So you see which task do you want to delete? Let's delete the one that is marked as complete. So enter 1. The tasks get deleted. As you can see here, deleted, right? If you try to view the task again, you see now we only have one task, which is cook. And that is basically it on our simple to-do list CLI application. CLI stands for command line interface. Our code, as you've seen up to this point, I'm going to just, let me reduce the size of this. So our code is modular and it is reusable. So what you can see, there is no why this is the case. We have main.py where we control all the logic that helps understand the flow of the application, separate from the logic for managing the tasks and the logic for displaying the user interface. Everything is managed separately. Remember, again, you can easily do this everything in a single file, but it's not clean when you do it that way. It's not reusable, it's not modular, and that is ideally what you're trying to achieve. So at the end of the day, you always want to write clean code. Clean code is always a good thing, either for you as well and for everyone else who is going to read your code later on. So the only other thing that is remaining here is documenting, writing comments on the code. I'll leave this to you as a task to do. I'd like you to go to each of the functions and I want you to write comments, and I want you to write multi-line comments. And again, go ahead and Google how to write multi-line comments and every other comments in case you in case you don't understand, or you have an yeah, in case you just don't understand what I mean in this case, or how to write them. So again, just take the initiative, go ahead and Google everything out and write the comments. That's going to be it. Thank you for watching up to this point. I'll see you in the next video.